I wanted to talk about something that has been on a lot of people's radar lately. This video you made many years ago, you did a very famous interview with Yuri Bezmenov, a Soviet KGB defector back in the 1980s, which, by the way, just made it into the latest Call of Duty video game. He warned about collectivism and the enslavement of mankind coming to the shores of the United States. He warned of how enslavement would be laid down in steps unto the American people.
To change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in four basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years. Actually, it's overfulfilled because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes his balls, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. The next stage is destabilization. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation, what matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world that the process will go that fast. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, "Now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized." This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth, to destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., with benevolent dictators like Walter Mondale, who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not. Your leftists in United States, all these professors and all these beautiful civil rights defenders, they are instrumental in the process of the subversion only to destabilize the nation. When their job is completed, they are not needed anymore. They know too much. Some of them, when they get disillusioned, when they see that Marxist-Leninists come to power, obviously they get offended. They think that they will come to power. That will never happen, of course. They will be lined up against the wall and shot. The time bomb is ticking. With every second, the disaster is coming closer and closer. Unlike myself, you will have nowhere to defect to.
It has all come alarmingly true. What would Yuri Bezmenov think of this global crackdown on the most basic freedoms today, in your opinion?
Well, I have a pretty good idea of what he would say, because he had a caustic way of dealing with people who don't listen. By that, I mean he had a very choice vocabulary for them.
Things we can't say on YouTube.
Things we can't say in polite public. But he would say something like, yes, you Americans are nothing but useful idiots. You've thrown away the most precious thing you've had so that you can go play your music and play your games and drink your soda pops, stuff like that. And he would be, unfortunately, brutally correct.
And I have to ask, because that interview has been gaining so much viewership lately. It has in the past too. It kind of goes in, trends of a bunch of people suddenly watch this video. A lot of people connect with that video after all these years. What do you think of, people's identifying with what Yuri said all those years ago and why it stayed so true?
I thought about that. I don't really have a good opinion. I can think of some possibilities, but I haven't. The little ball going around the roulette wheel hasn't dropped into the slot yet, in my opinion. It could be several things. I guess old things usually have a certain fascination when you can say, well, this person saying these outlandish things, he did that 50 years ago, and they're not outlandish anymore. So there's a value to that, to see the validation of most of what this person said, and then it puts the yet realized part into a perspective of being realistic. When none of it has yet unfolded, you tend to say that'll never happen in America. I mean, yeah, over in Europe or Asia or Africa, yeah, well, those backward people are. But here in America, we got freedom here. That'll never happen here. Americans are too smart for that. All these things they used to say, and now they can say, well, my God, yeah, it's happening all right. Now maybe we should look at it a little more carefully. So the fact that it's old has a lot of value to it. You and I are now saying things of a similar nature about the future. And people are still in that mode of saying, well, that'll never happen here. I mean, yeah, we've slipped a lot, but we always come back. The recessions always rebound. Yeah, they're always tough times, but we're a resilient people, and we'll, all the things that people say to themselves to comfort themselves and justify not taking this warning seriously, mainly because they don't know what to do about it, first of all. Mm-hmm. And secondly, the typical American's attitude of what to do about it simply means, well, who are you going to vote for? That's where it stops. Most people think, oh yeah, my obligation of citizenship, the thing that I do to preserve my freedom, is to decide which political party I'm going to be in.
Yeah.
That's it.
And after every election, the government gets a little bit bigger, and
Nothing
then everyone
changes.
trusts
Nothing
everything.
changes.
They're completely dependent on some psychopath in a suit that says he can rule everyone.
So they go from one party to the next, and we're going through the process right now. There's a big recoil against the left, so everybody's going to go to Mr. Trump and on the Republican Party this time. Yeah, I mean, victory. Every time, no matter who wins the election, it's a big victory, right? But as you just said, nothing changes, and I'm afraid as long as we're in the grips of the two-party system, nothing will change.
I mean, my goodness, have we seen a more socialistic time in our history? The Fed owns up, I think, 1/3 of all mortgages in the country right now. If everyone goes home, that's about 28 million people homeless. That's 9 out of 100 Americans homeless. Now, of course, the U.S. government won't allow that to happen, so the banks will seize houses. Then the government will take over those houses, and then they'll do a relief program where they give everyone free houses. And then, whoopee, the government saved us from the problem it created in the first place. And it goes in circle forever, and it's very, very much exhausting. My friends, it is go time. We are completely demonetized on YouTube, and we depend on the viewer to stay alive and spread the message of freedom and truth. So check those links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar, anything you guys could do to help keep independent media alive helps enormously in helping spread this message to the masses. So make sure to check those links. Donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen or below. We really appreciate anything you could do to keep us alive. You could check those links below for Cointree as well, where you can find other cryptocurrencies charities that you can donate and keep WAM alive. Find us on flote.app, flote.app, as well as BitChute and LBRY and Minds. We're on all the other platforms. We are leaving YouTube soon, so make sure to find us at those sites, because it's the only way we can keep talking to you, the masses, the great people that actually care about the future of free humanity. Also, join our new newsletter at www.iamband.com. Anything helps at this point, guys. We need to support free information online. This is the most difficult time in our history, and it takes a lot of hard work to keep our message alive in the face of great evils that have taken over the propaganda news on television as well as on YouTube, where YouTube decides what you can or cannot see. We need your help, my friends. So I really appreciate anything you guys can do. Check those links. There's many ways you can help. Until next time, though, thanks, everyone. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.